Welcome to all of those here at the zoo and for all of you out in the Zoom land.
It's a great day to be a Rotarian.
Let's start our meeting
with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I learned at the district conference a couple weeks ago that over half the clubs in our district start their meetings with an invocation, which we used to do. And I went to the Rotary website and found this one that I'd like to share with you today. So let's pray.
O
Lord
Lord
and
and
giver of all
good,
good,
we thank
you for our daily food.
May
May
Rotary
friends
and
and
Rotary
Rotary
ways
ways
help
help us to serve you
all
all of our days.
Amen.
Amen.
So our first order of business is to
introduce our
guests.
guests.
I'm
I'm looking quickly for the first time at our Zoomers. I don't see any guests on the Zoom.
So if you brought a guest, would you please come up and we'll try to do this so that everybody can be introduced at the same time.
Hey,
You have guests?
I do.
Where is she?
My guest is over here at this table in the corner, Joanne Harrison. Many of you know. Joanne has been a supporter of Rotary in a number of ways over the years. Why are you not a Rotarian already, Joanne?
Go ahead.
Well, the poll was, you should be Joanne.
Hi, I'm Carol Wheeler, and my guest again is my daughter, Jennifer Howell. She's the owner of the Veterinary Bank. Her application is in, and she's just waiting for me so that she can be approved. But
I want people to see her. Sorry, I wasn't trying to undress you. Thank you. Let me. My guest today is Colette Coolidge, and many of you know Colette. She has been active community leader in Topeka for many years. And some of you may remember her husband, Phil Coolidge. Phil was a member of this club for, I don't know, 40-some years, I'm sure. He was president of in 1979. And Phil was a long-time architect here in Topeka, and he and Colette share an interest in architecture and landscape architecture. And that's the reason why she's here today. So please welcome Colette Coolidge.
Figure out how to get you up in the picture. Okay. I'm Karen Hiller, and my guest today is Nadia Arbello. Nadia grew up here in Topeka, has been gone for years, literally all over the world, and is back to be part of all the excitement that going on right now. Among her other possibilities is that she used to have a shop called Road, and is looking for a place to reopen that kind of business and art gallery here. Welcome.
Today I brought my very best wife, Lynette Jobeck. And some of you may recognize her as a former member of this club. Now she is a member of the Lawrence Rotary.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Today I have guests. This is kind of a special day because our speaker is a very valued member of our team. There's a lot of amazing happening at the zoo, and the people that work here that make those happen. Today, my guest, many of you know, but it's our director of operations on my side.
Well, I am very pleased to introduce someone that's here several weeks ago. Come in here, doctor. This is Dr. Ken Gimple, retired orthopedic doctor here in Topeka. You might remember that he was here when we had our speaker, Steve Grant, former NFL star with Sports World. Dr. Gimple has been a strong supporter of that organization for many years, which believes that we're not winners, we're not born losers, we're born winners. There are a lot of young people. He is going to be a new guy.
Thank you to all our guests. At least two of those I know have applications for becoming members of our club. So I think Stan Martindale, before he takes his next bite, is going to come up and give us a second report from the nominating.
I forgot my cheat sheets. I'm going by memory. Next year's president, Steve Knoll. Of course, Marie will become the immediate past president. President-elect Vince Fry. We announced our new VP, Vice President, Program Chair is going to be Zach Aarons. Our treasurer will be John Wall. Secretary Colleen Sergeant at Arms Bob Lawson. We have three new board members. Karen Streeter is renewing. Michael Adupatan will be a new board member. And Susan Alexander will be a new board member. And for the foundation, Bob is renewing for a three-year term. And Angel Zimmerman and Scott Teeter will be starting a three-year term starting in July. Are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, we will close and we'll present the slate and we will be voting next week.
Thank you, Stan. Just a quick show of hands. How many of you have an account at Rotary.org? That's our club. Club runner side. That's not enough. So we're going to work on having everybody raise their hand next time. How about Rotary.org? The international. About the same. So if you're on, you're on. If you're on, you're on. If you're not, we're going to change that. We're going to change that. We had a very wonderful event last Thursday. I want to thank everyone who joined us and gave to polio. We were just short of our goal, but I can tell you that as of today, above our $5,000 collection goal Marie set for the club this year. I think we're well on our way to right out of the water. So thank you all who helped with the event and contributed. Don't let meeting a goal contributing to the end the polio campaign. The Highland Park Interact Club had a trunk and treat event on October 30. There are over 1,200 kids who participated. Thank you to everyone that brought candy and attended. It's a great way to support our Highland Park Interact Club members. We do still need volunteers. The Rotary Reconnect use three more callers. Help us get to everyone sooner. So I can tell you that it's the three or four names a time, maybe twice a month at the most that we make those calls. So please volunteer for that. You can see me. We also want to start having greeters at the door. And if we had Rotarians or others visiting our club without a sponsor, you can take them to the table and be somebody from our club making them feel welcome. So volunteer to be a greeter. And finally, we're still trying to improve our Zoom and room event status, and so we do need volunteers for that Zoom. Stan, I brought all my notes. I just have to remember to use them all.
Your
Rotopeka
should have just come out.
just
so
come
be
out,
sure and
so
see
be sure
that.
and see
If
that.
you
If
missed the
you
email,
missed the email
and wanted to go to
and
the
wanted to go
club
to the
website, you could find it there also. Okay, I think that's it
Okay,
for
I think that's it
announcements.
for announcements.
Our speaker today
Our
will be
speaker today
introduced
will
by
be
Ann
introduced by
Palmer.
Ann Palmer.
And while they're coming
And while they're
up,
coming
I
up,
have a
I
quote
have
from
a
Robert
quote from
Frost.
Robert Frost.
Nature does not
Nature
complete
does
things.
not complete things.
She is chaotic.
She is chaotic.
Man must finish.
Man must
And he
finish.
does so by
He
making
does
a
so by
garden
making a
and building a wall.
building.
Thank you, Steve. That was an excellent. Should I begin?
You're fine. Well, we're getting it. I don't know where it's coming from,
Okay.
but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I am just today to introduce my friend, my neighbor, and my longtime colleague, Rick Knight. Now, some of you remember taking your children or going yourselves to the zoo in the 70s and 80s and into the early 90s. And you went to see the animals. You probably didn't notice much else. Rick, who had worked at Skinner's, where he and I first became acquainted, in 1996, I remember being really excited that Rick got a job with the zoo and he was going to be in charge of all of the grounds. And I knew things would change. I did not know how dramatically they would change. He is responsible for turning going to the zoo to see the animals into going to the zoo to see the animals with a fabulous backdrop of plants, and almost as much education can be gained from the plants that he has curated there. Rick has a horticulture and nursery management degree from Kansas State. I asked him one time about his job, and he said he takes care of everything at the zoo that's not an animal. And I think that's probably very accurate. Rick is incredibly knowledgeable about horticulture. And he is also one of the more rare individuals that is so eager to share his horticultural knowledge with you and everyone. And I'm so glad we have such a nice crowd here today to listen to him. Just to give you a little more personal information about Rick, he belongs to the AZH and he's certified, and I had to ask, that's the American Zoological Horticultural Society. And he is a certified member of that. I know personally that he is an all-star with daylilies. I also know that he had to give up some after he built 8-foot fences because his backyard slopes down to the river on Grove. And I'm afraid that the deer won. And did you ever go back to the daylilies back there? Yeah, they always found him. He is also a member of the Northeast Kansas Rock and Fossil Association. He's belongs to the Prairie Seed Saver Society, and he's on the Shawnee County Extension Advisory Board. He is a delight, he's knowledgeable, and you're looking at a lot of his work right here. And one of the things that he told me when it was first being planted, I did not realize there was a special way to prune Japanese style evergreens. And so Rick was taught, and that's why they all look very different. And that is his job, to keep it looking authentic. So, Rick Knight.
Welcome to Topeka Zoo, Kay McFarland's Gardens. Kay came to us back in the spring, I think, of 2015, and she wanted to do a garden and a fish pond. And we started working with her then, and we hired a Japanese designer, and as we went along, it kind of morphed into what we have today, about 3 acres. She was interested in the gardens and the ponds, but had no interest in the venue here. So we went on a long road with Kay, and she did not survive to see the end. But while she was working with us for the first 18 months, she saw what was going on and she liked it. And she's our benefactor for the garden and the ponds. Today, I'm going to talk about the symbolisms in the garden, and every structure in the garden, whether it be rock or built or bridge, has a symbolism. And Koji, our designer, taught me as we went along what the symbolisms were, and I've added to it. But we have to do a little bit of pre-work before we get there. So in Japanese garden, there are 4 elements. There is water, and we have 9 waterfalls, water features in the garden. There is ornamentation. We have Japanese lanterns and other things in the garden that are ornamentation. We have plants, and in the plant world, we have the big 4 covered here, which is pine, cherry, Japanese maples, and bamboo. And all are native to the Eastern Japanese islands and China. And so the last is rocks, and we have lots of rocks. We imported about 650 tons of rock for this project, and they came from a quarry on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border, and they're all glacier rocks. So the glacier pulled them down, and they were harvested there. And the last load of rocks that came only had 13 rocks on it. They were big rocks, and they come rolling out of the truck. And the truck driver said I was overweight, and I was fearing the highway patrol the whole way I came down here. And those 13 rocks, about 5 of them ended over here. And there's 1 rock back up here in the corner. It's a granite rock with a line of quartz that goes through the middle of it. And I told Koji, our designer, I said, that's my rock. I want to place a prominence for it. And so when you go to the app and it dings, it talks about Rick's Rock, and it's back here in this corner. And you can go out and talk to Rick's Rock if you want. So we're going to go through the symbolisms of the garden. And if you look at the screens, you can see both ways. Let's hope this works. Okay. It's not working.
Boy, are we in trouble.
And I'm not computer savvy.
I am not either. And I don't know why they called on me. Oh, are we sharing? Yeah, but are we sharing? We need to share. Oh, great. Our screen is paused, whatever that means.
Well, Stevie's working on that. I'm going to remind everybody it's still done.
If you're more help than I am, please help me. It says my screen is paused, that I don't. No. All right, let's stop sharing. Try again. Let's see what someone's chatting. Welcome. Very helpful.
Okay.
I'm trying to just figure out. It's moving in the room, it's not moving on the share. Sorry.
Okay, I can do from this. So this is the beginning of the garden. Originally, it was designed for these three things: relax, recharge, and reconnect. That's what we wanted the garden to do. This is the opening to the crane gate. And on each side of the crane gate, there are two big rocks. And those rocks you're supposed to leave before you go into the garden area, your trials and tribulations and your worries, so that when you go into the garden, you have a pure heart experience and you can explore, relax, reconnect, and recharge. There's our two big rocks. And every opening in the garden has one rock on each side. And you know, when you tell the rock something, he's not going to tell back. So as you walk through our gate, you'll find a pagoda, and the pagoda announces what you're going to have in the garden. And each level of the pagoda is an earth sign. So the bottom is, the layers are earth, wind, fire, water, and space. And so it announces what you're going to have in the garden. The fire comes from the lanterns, and those are a votive. And during the mid-century, the Taoists came from China, and they brought the lanterns and the votive lights to light the way. This is the zigzag bridge. It's called an A-plank bridge. In Japan, a plank bridge is a 12-inch piece of wood suspended on a rock or a brick, and it zigzags across wet areas so you don't get your feet wet. This is what it has morphed into being, is this zigzag bridge. And the zigzag bridge was popularized in a book of poems that was written in 905, and it has 125 poems in it. And one of the poems talks about going across the countryside and walking across the zigzag bridge with irises blooming around it. The scholars, because it was written in 905, does not know who the author of this book of poems is. One group thinks that it is a man of distinction, and was out in the countryside on a trip. The other group of scholars thinks it was a woman, and she was excommunicated from the court, and she went out into the countryside and wrote poems. Most of the poems, or some of the poems, are masculine, some of them are feminine. It may be a dual writer, we don't know. This bridge is made entirely of recycled telephone poles we got from Evergy, and they were milled and planed and made into this bridge. Most all of our structures are made from recycled telephone poles. As you go down the pathway, if you're Buddhist, this represents a family. The middle stone is an ancestor. The stone on the right is a masculine, and the stone on the left is a feminine. If you're Buddhist. If you're not Buddhist, it represents a mountain range. They're set on end. and they are in the first experience in the garden. The garden is designed like a lunch pail, a bento box, or a tackle box. There's an experience and you have a main player in it, and then you go to a new experience. So as you go through the garden, the experiences change. This is a family group. This is in the second experience. Again, you have an ancestor, a male, a female, and the small stone in the middle is a child. We also have on that side of the garden lots of big pine trees, and they will be pruned as layered pine trees, and they'll be about 25 to 30 foot tall, and they'll define these areas. This goes down into our moon bridge, and off the moon bridge, you'll see several items. To the bottom of the screen where the pine trees is Turtle Island. We have the bridge. The red color comes from China, and in China it's prosperity and wealth, good luck. And in Japan, the red bridge is a pathway to paradise and immortality. Looking off the bridge, no, you won't see that. Looking off the bridge, right straight out south of the building here, there's a horizontal rock and a vertical rock, and that is Big Crane Island. And the two horizontal rocks in front of it are Little Crane Island. In that location, there's Kay's Eternal Lantern, and it has one leg on a rock and one leg in the water, and that is half earthly, half heavenly. This is one of the lanterns that the Taoists brought from China, and they also brought that votive that sits in the middle of it to light your way. We have many of lanterns in the garden. Each one has its own identity. And the top knot at the top represents heaven, and the base represents earth. And I really haven't figured out what the rest of it in the middle stands for. Everyone has its own identity. There are lanterns out here in the front of this building that flank the side, and they came from the White Deer Monastery. And on the burner plates, they have white deer engraved in the lantern, which is kind of cool. Oh, there we go. There's Big Crane Island. There's Little Crane Island. And let's see if we have Kay's Lantern. There's Kay's Lantern. So half on earth, half in water and in heaven. And so it has a large canopy on it, and when the snow comes, it helps show the snow as it builds up on the canopy, because it won't slide off, it has to melt off. Of course, we have koi in our ponds. The koi came to Japan from China, and in China they were growing the koi in the rice paddies to supplement their protein. The Japanese got a hold of them and started breeding them for exotic shapes and colors. And we put in a lot of koi in the pond here, and they immediately started having babies, lots of babies. And this morning we had a heron come visit us, and I was hoping that he was going to eat some. We have a lot. This is the turtle gate. This is turtle gate that you come through as you come in from the parking lot. And as you come in, you want to look at the push plate at the front. It's brass. And when it's together, there are 12 cherry blossoms. There is a U-shaped, which is Japanese for harmony, and it's got 3 lines on it, and that is love, life, and harmony. And if you come in the gate up here, the crane gate, it has it in the sidewalk, and it's a broad band of dark pebbles, and it's love, life, and harmony, which is really kind of cool. This is the endless water feature in the bride's garden, and it just continues to run, and when it's running, it gives a really nice sound out there, and it's supposed to be a ritualistic washing. As you come into the garden, you are supposed to wash your hands and clean off your feet, and then you can go into the structure. This is some of the 13 rocks that came at the end, and they are here in the Zen garden, the right garden. The rock in the middle there is 7,000 pounds, which is 3.5 tons. And there's more of it in the ground than there is above. When we were placing those, it wouldn't stand up, so it got concreted in. And so the rocks on this side of the garden represent the immortals. The immortals are spiritual beings that fly through the air, and these are represented out here in the garden. My rock, which is in the Zen garden, is the rock here in the corner. It is a granite rock with a piece of red quartzite in the middle. And the granite rock came up in a volcano that is now at the bottom of Lake Superior. And as it came up, it pulled lava up, and it incorporated that piece of red quartzite in it. And that red quartzite used to be a beach. It was sand, and through heat and pressure, it got condensed down into a solid rock, and it picked it up and it put it all through that rock. And it's a really cool rock. It's a really cool rock. We have an app, and when it goes by there, it dings and it'll tell you all about Rick's Rock. Oh, there's Rick's Rock. And you can see the quartzite there in the middle. So this is up at tea house. This is a red crowned cranes dancing. And so the one that's standing upright is the male, and the one that's down fluffing her feathers is the female. And we haven't had any tea ceremonies, but when I was in California, I went to a tea ceremony, and the tea was terrible, terrible. It was green and bitter, and even though they gave you a little cookie to begin with, it was still terrible. But the performance was fantastic. This is Crane Pond, and you're looking at the tea structure. The tea structure usually is in levels, but we have ADA here, and so everybody can go into it. It has a walk path that is built with big boulders that are flat on one side, so you can walk across the top of them. It's really cool way to get into it. We have a lantern there with a bamboo water feature, and the water feature is a stylized lotus bowl, and it looks like the flower, and the water drains into it. And again, you're supposed to ritualistically bathe your hands and wash your face and wash your feet off before you go into the tea ceremony. This pond has a large water feature right here, and it again has the ancestor in the middle, the male person on this right side, the female on the left side. And in this structure, the water coming out of the fountain is supposed to represent the prodigy coming from the union of this group. This also has a red bridge in it, and it is that pathway to paradise and immortality, but it is the best place in the whole garden to get your picture taken. This is the machi. The machi is a structure like a bus stop. And this is where you meet and greet your fellow participants in the tea ceremony. Whether you're rich or you're poor, everybody is put on the same level. And you sit there and get to know everybody before you walk down the hillside into the tea house. This structure overlooks a reflecting pool. No, not the reflecting pool. And it's a great place. In Japan, it is thought that if you see the reflection in the water, you've already seen it before. It is part either from your previous life or it's something that you have seen in the dream. And somebody asked me what I saw in the pond, and I told them it was pretty foggy. In the spring, when the caria blooms, it reflects into the water. And if you stand on the far east side of the reflecting pool, there's a shared view of a pine tree that's really cool, especially in the morning. It reflects on and it gives you a wonderful view. The colors are absolutely spectacular there. This is the venue. Kay McFarland wanted a garden and a koi pond that was built to her stature, but she didn't want the venue, so the zoo built the venue in a Japanese style. It has a wood roof and you can see the whole garden from right here. And I guess that's it. And this is the best view for taking photographs of the venue. So our garden is designed by Koji Matsura, and he lives in Kansas City. And he put things into our garden that represent a whole bunch of different cultures that came from China. The Shintos came from China early. The Taoists came. They brought their own garden styles, their own forms of what they thought was appropriate. And then last came the Zen Buddhists, and they brought the minimalistic ideas, the rake gravel. They weren't looking for a garden. They were just looking for someplace to meditate. So after we're through, we have myself and volunteer. And if you want to, there's Madonna Claire back. We'll be trailing through the garden if you have any questions. Anybody have any questions now? Yes. There are male and female sides to the garden, the yin and the yang. The east side is a masculine side. It has the zigzag bridge through it, and it has more pine trees. It has white flowers on it, and the feminine side has a softer sidewalk, more floral, and it has the tea house, which is more feminine. And so, yeah, and the female side is on this side, the male's on this, and the water comes together, they meet up, and they get married, and they come down to the big pond. Yes, sir. We think that someplace between 5 and 7 years should give us some maturity, but some of our pines probably won't mature out for 25 or 30 years. No, we intentionally kept all of the trees that were here, with the exception of 3 or 4 old pine trees or old pin oak trees that got struck by lightning. And in the process, with the building of we've lost an elm tree and we've lost a pine tree. We would like to keep whatever. It is not necessarily about what variety of plant material it is, as more of its form. And so we try to keep as much as we could, because we want the shade. We want people to get underneath the shade and enjoy, even in the summer. So we have a couple oaks, a couple lindens, an elm, and we have a tree back here that Mr. Foster, who used to be the park naturalist, said he believes that it was planted in 1920 or 1921 and did have fence around it all during construction. And we want to keep it as long as we can. Hello.
Go ahead.
The swimming pool was in here, and when we dug the footings for this building, we ran into some of the swimming pool. And the rest of it's still underneath the parking lot. It was in the 40s when they concreted the bottom of the pool, and we ran into that, and there was a tower right in the middle, and we ran into that too. So
Rick's going to stay and answer your questions and take you through. He'll be out in the garden. So I think I want to thank you very much for a wonderful program and a wonderful place to have our meetings. We'll figure out the technology soon. It seems to be an Achilles heel for this. So thank you.
They won't even let me navigate now. I can't even get the cursor going. Oh, now I got it.
So there is those of you on the Zoom that didn't get that, there is a zoo app, Kay's Garden. Go to your app store and you can get the app that'll help you get through the garden. Well, again, I apologize for those of you that weren't in the room to hear and see all of that. We're still trying very hard to get that figured out. And thank you, Rick, for a wonderful program. Thank you, Brendan, for a wonderful venue. And so next week, our program is Dr. Lynn Rance from the Topeka Collegiate. And so let's stand and say our four-way test. Of the things that we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. I didn't either. I've got today. See you next time.